Hey guys, Gaston with Rough Country, and today we're going to be installing our e-board power running boards on our 2024 Toyota Tacoma. Let's go over what's included in the kit. First up, we've got our 6-inch lightweight durable aluminum running board with a textured surface for secure footing every time. Next, we've got our 4 motors. Dual motor technology is going to make sure we have maximum power when deploying and retracting. Included with each front motor is a custom shim to provide a perfect fit. We've also got our integrated LED lights that are going to illuminate when the boards are deployed. We've got our control module. We've got our bypass switch that you're going to mount in the cab, magnetic triggers, as well as the magnets to trigger them. And of course, our fully integrated plug-and-play harness and all necessary hardware and even cable ties. Let's get this Tacoma up on the lift and get started on this installation. Our first step is going to be to install our motors. Let's get going. This simple no-drill installation is going to mount using the factory step locations. On our front motor here, we're going to take our shim, set it in place like that, take our supplied hardware, run it through, and bolt the motor in. We're going to wait to do our final torque down until after our running board is installed. That way we can make sure everything is in its proper place. We'll go ahead and mount our control module at the factory step middle mounting point. Once we do that, we'll jump over to the driver's side, mount those motors, and we will be ready to install our wiring harness. Here's our wiring harness. Now this could be a little intimidating, but don't let it. Every plug has a specific location. We're going to lay it out on the floor, do a mock routing so you can see where everything goes, and then we'll put it in place. We've got our plug that goes to our control module. We know that's on the passenger side. We'll start to lay everything out based on that. This is going to run up the frame to our battery, front passenger side motor, as well as LED light. Our rear passenger side motor and LED light. Then we have the wiring for our door triggers and our override switch. Finally, we've got the part of the harness that crosses over to the driver's side with the driver's side front and rear motor plugs and LED light plugs. Okay, I've got the control module plugged in. I've got both of the passenger side motors plugged in. I'm going to continue to route the harness to its proper location. Once we've got it all routed, I'll come back with the wire ties and make sure all of the loom is securely in place. Then we'll start on getting into the interior with our trigger wires. When you're routing, you're going to want to make sure to avoid moving parts and heat, of course. I've come over the gas tank and above this particular cross member with our loom. It's going to protect it from the drive shaft as well as the heat from the exhaust. We drop across here, come down from the frame, and we'll be able to plug in each motor and LED light. Now we're going to take our battery connections and route those forward to the engine compartment along the frame rail and up, again avoiding moving parts and heat. Now on the passenger side footwell, just above the frame, we've got our grommet that we're going to go through. You can access this from inside the cab, but while we're underneath, and so I don't have to bring the truck up and down, I'm going to go ahead and pop it out and feed my wires through. Then we'll install our LED lights, lower the truck down, and I'll show you exactly where this is in the interior. Before we lower the truck down and go into the interior portion of the install, we're going to install our LED lighting. I'm going to pick my location, usually one around the middle of the door. We will clean that off with some rubbing alcohol, stick our light into place, route our wire, and plug it in. All right, let's get some interior panels removed, and you'll see where we're running our wires into the cab. Here are our trigger wires as well as the plug for our bypass switch. We'll get those ran into the cab, then we'll make a small incision in the grommet, slide the wires through the grommet, and replace it in the floorboard. Now we will route our passenger trigger wire to to our passenger B-pillar. We're gonna route our driver's side trigger wire behind the dash over to the driver's side and to the driver's side B-pillar. And finally, we'll route our plug for our default switch behind the dash and over to the lower portion of the dash on the driver's side. We're gonna pop our B-pillar trim off this lower portion on both sides. That way we can route our wiring and get our triggers mounted and also our magnets, so when we open our door, our steps deploy. You can use fish tape, metal coat hanger, or I've got these fiberglass rods. Poke them under the dash till they come out on the passenger side. Then I'll take a small zip tie, connect my wires to it, pull it through to the driver's side, and we'll have our wiring ran over to the driver's side. It's gonna be pretty much the same on this side. We're gonna remove some interior panels, get our trigger wire ran back to the B-pillar, get our B-pillar panel removed. We're gonna mount our override switch and get ready to install our door triggers. Now we're ready to install our door trigger sensors. We've got one end that's gonna plug into our trigger wire that we ran over here to the driver's side. Then we will route these into the B-pillar behind the weather stripping, and they're gonna mount in the door sill. We'll get our front mounted. We will snake through the B-pillar, get our rear mounted, making sure to avoid the seat belt. And then finally, the far end of this harness needs to be grounded. We'll do that using an existing body ground inside the B-pillar. Let's get started. Okay, now we're going to mount our override switch. I've routed it under the steering column, made sure to avoid any of the brake, gas pedal, etc. And now I'm going to install it right here on this blank. All right, our interior is buttoned up. We've got all our triggers and magnets installed. Now we're going to go ahead and connect to power, make sure everything's working properly. And the last thing to do is install the actual power boards. We had ran the wiring harness up the frame and kind of poked it into the engine compartment. I was able to see it, just reached down, grabbed it, pulled it up, secured it to the back side of our battery bracket, and now it's just simply a matter of connecting it to the battery. All right, we're connected to power. I'm going to turn the system on by switching the bypass switch to on. The door is open, so it should trigger this side to come down. All right, and I can see both of our LED lights have come on as well. I'm going to shut the door and they should retract. Perfect. Let's check the other side. Just what we want. Excellent. Now we're ready to actually install our step onto our motors. With the step flipped over, if you look here on the back side in this channel, we've got two mounts that slide along the channel. They fit perfectly in the receivers of the arms mounted on the motors. We'll head, take the step over there, get them lined up, and get them installed. We're going to line up on the back as well, and remember, we've kept the motors loose so that we can line everything up without binding. Once I get the board mounted to the motors, then we'll come back and tighten the motors to the truck. All right, we've got the step mounted and we've got the bolts started. We're gonna leave those loose because we're gonna need to be able to adjust our step to get it lined up to where it clears the frame and sits just right with the body. What I can do now is go ahead and tighten up our motors, then we'll close it, make sure we're exactly where we wanna be, tighten these bolts down, and that's gonna complete the install. And that's how easy it is to install our e-board power running boards on the latest generation Tacoma. When retracted, they look great, they protect your rockers from debris, they are up and out of the way, and they don't take away from your ride height. But when you need them, they're gonna drop down to the perfect height so you can get in your vehicle with ease. So if you're looking for a great step option for the latest generation Tacoma, check out our e-board power running boards, available today at roughcountry.com.